We are stoked.
I'm a terrible sore loser. I don't follow the rules.
All the bearded guys seem to lie. Yeah.
There are rumors galore.
I am so up and down in my emotions right now.
Retain salad.
Okay. Where there is smoke, there is always fire, etc., etc., etc.
You don't do it.
Been there, done that.
And we'll get into it later.
They know crap about hockey.
Come on. Well, I laugh it off.
I have no issue.
Here's the thing, though. I have nothing.
I'm okay with this deal.
There was no other option.
So now you have nothing.
We already blew it.
Win now, win now.
It paid off.
I will eat my pants.
Hey guys, it's two guys in hockey talk. I'm Pawel The Cat, and I've got my beautiful co-host.
Revingev, Evan Reynolds at your service, and we have an incredible guest today, a fellow goaltender that actually knows how to goaltend as opposed to myself. By the way, see behind me here? See behind me? I got Hall of Famers there. Drew Doughty and Evan Reynolds, Revingev. That's me, baby. That's me, number one. Anyway, I'd like to introduce our guest, goaltender, Kassidy Sauve. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you guys for having me.
Thank you, and welcome. You are calling in from Finland, is that correct?
Yep, I am.
Excellent. Well, this show is now going international. Evan, where are the sponsors, right? No, I'm just kidding. So, Kassidy, thank you so much for being on the show. It's an honor. It's really cool to know that you play hockey, but we kind of wanted to first ask where that love of the game came from and when you first fell in love or kind of around the time with hockey and kind of what directed you in the direction of playing goaltender.
Yeah, so I grew up, when I was younger, my family lived in Montreal. So a lot of hockey there, and I had an older brother who was kind of starting to play hockey when I was around 4. He was 5. And I wanted to be just like him, so naturally my parents got me some skates and threw me out there with him, and I just immediately, I think I liked it more than him right off the bat, and I just, every second he was out there, I think it was more so just wanting to spend time with him and be with him out there. So and then eventually started playing Timbits, and it was my turn to be goalie, and I didn't want to wear the pads that the team had. Instead, I said I was wearing my street hockey pads. So I went out there with my street hockey pads, and I loved it so much. My parents said, like, from that moment on, we knew there was no turning back. Like, we should have never let you try it, because there was no chance that I wasn't going to be a goalie from there on out. So I think I started playing in net when I was around 5 or 6. It was a pretty quick transition over. So.
Oh my goodness. So street hockey, man, does that, so how much street hockey did you play when you were young?
Oh, too much. Gosh, we probably played every day after school, every weekend. Anytime we weren't at the rink, we were playing street hockey, so.
One-on-one with your brother, you're still going to beat him, right?
Oh yeah, every day. I think he's only ever scored 1 goal on me, but don't tell him that.
Okay.
Okay, so fans of hockey want to know, are you related to the legendary Bob Sauve, the goaltender?
I am not, but a little cooler, I think, is George Vezina is in my bloodline. So that's pretty cool. Like, I'm hoping that's where I got maybe a little bit of the skill. But yeah, he's on my dad's side of the family, so yeah, there's a bit of a relation there, which is pretty cool.
So we need to change the Vezina Trophy name, right?
Yeah, put my name, just plaster my name right on.
Yeah. So just to separate, instead of calling it the Sauve, we'll call it the Kassidy.
Yeah, there you go.
That's awesome. Hey, so I have a question. So just looking at, and folks, if you want to check out some stats, she's on Elite Prospects. You can see some of her information. I got it here in front of me, Cass. And so, interesting enough, what I'm noticing is your save percentage. That in obviously the leagues that are recording, and according to what we see as a lot of standards, analytics are really huge nowadays and stuff like that. How important do you think it is in evaluating goaltenders at looking at, their goals against average as opposed to, say, a save percentage?
Yeah, I think I've always been one, and maybe this is just part because I've played on teams that have been not so good or really like I've kind of played on a wide variety of teams. So I've kind of always valued a save percentage more, just because if you're on a really bad team that's getting peppered every game and you have a high save percentage, that's usually a pretty good indication that you have a good goalie in net. But if you have a high goals against average on that team, it might not necessarily do the goalie justice. So I think a save percentage tells a lot more than a goals against average, just based specifically off the goalie and not the team.
So okay, so here's a question: if you have a more structured defense, maybe it's a little bit more defensive. They leave less gap space. You're getting less zone time in the defensive zone for you, and you have a save percentage between two goalies, say yourself and someone else, but different defensive structure. What would you look for in evaluating a goalie to know which would be probably a better goalie, or is save percentage save percentage?
I think that's kind of where you go in and you look at everything as a whole. Like, you can look at obviously the save percentage, like total number of shots against, in a certain number of games, and then you can also pull the goals against average into it. Because if you're looking at, let's say, like for example, a Wisconsin in the NCAA, they might average 15 to 18 shots against a game, whereas like a middle pack or lower seed team might have 40 or so shots, and obviously playing different defensive styles. So I think that's where you can kind of pull together all the stats and pretty much be able to tell if there's a good goalie in net or maybe a goalie that's not really getting challenged as much.
So, and what about goalie confidence? So, there's a lot of talk about the quality of chances also on a goalie. I know that's one thing that I found in rec league. So for example, when you're playing in a lower league, a lot of times the defense isn't as good. There's a lot more 2-on-1s, 3-on-2s, even if there's less shots. But the quality of chances, where you probably have a 30% chance of making some of those saves.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a huge part too. And I know like with the national program, they pay less attention to like save percentage and goals against average and more so scoring chances against per game. And I think that's just because, especially with Team Canada, like they're probably not getting as many scoring chances against per game as let's say like Finland, where their goalie has to kind of stand on their head every other shot. So I do think that that's a huge component.
Wow. Okay.
And
No,
so
no,
with oh yeah, so
no.
so when it comes to goaltending, do you find that equipment and the style that you're wearing matters? Because I know it's grown and evolved in different levels, including the NHL. Do you find like you have a knack for a particular type of pad, larger, smaller, or is there something that like you design or are able to design or help design those pads or that equipment that helps you be more mobile in the crease
Yeah.
there?
Yeah. So actually, up until I think last year, I was wearing Brian's, all through college, and I had pretty big equipment. I think I was wearing like 35 or 36 plus two. So pretty big considering I'm only 5'9". Like I feel like that was definitely too big for me. But yeah, I liked the bigger feel of the equipment, but then I kind of started working with Bauer in the last year, and I went down to a medium, which I think is a 34, um, and or 34 or 35. Their size is weird, but I did a full custom set with them, so my glove is like completely custom, pretty much to be more so like a Brian's glove, just because that's what I was used to. And I think personally with the smaller gear, I feel like I can move a lot better and I've had less strain on my hips, which is pretty interesting because I did have bilateral hip surgery in college and I haven't had any issues with the Bauer pads. And I don't know if it's the pads specifically or the size difference. So
Actually, that's a great question. You're mentioning about getting like hip surgery. Like, how long does it take for a player? I mean, obviously a goaltender is even going to be more difficult than say a forward or a defenseman. But like recovery time, like how long do you need to assess a player coming back, do you think, to really know where your game's at?
So initially for my first one, they said 6 to 9 months that I would be full go. But then I hurt my other hip in the process of coming back, so I ended up taking another 6 to 9 months. So it was like, oh, like I think almost 2 years total, like a year and a half plus. But yeah, like I would say probably on the longer end of it, just because of obviously depending on how severe the injury is. But I think just on the longer end of it, for sure, just to take the time to properly make sure it's healed and that there's also strength around the hip so that you're not just going into it and throwing out kick saves and blowing your groin or something. So,
And I know goaltenders usually it's a mental game as well. How do you prepare yourself? Because I know a lot of goaltenders are very particular or peculiar about what they're doing before game day or before even practice. Like, how do you get yourself in that headspace to be ready for that game?
yeah, I think I'm probably one of the very few goalies that's not super routine. And I think that's because at one point I used to be very superstitious and pardon me, it kind of bit me a little bit because I would get in a funk where if like one thing didn't go my way or if one thing in my routine got messed up, it would like completely distract me from just stopping the puck. I kind of like to have fun and chat with my teammates, be loose, and let's say like if we're playing on a Friday practice, I like to just break a sweat and have fun and get out there and just be around people. And I think that's for me what I figured out works. And I like taking it that way just because it makes the game more fun. I mean, 6, 7, 8-year-old me didn't have a huge superstitious routine to stop the puck. She just went out there and had fun. So that's kind of, I'm trying to play like that kid, not like a robot. So yeah.
Oh, so what you're saying is you're kind of superstitious to not be superstitious.
Yeah, I'm like anti superstitious.
So I think, Pavel, that something that Cass has just said here too is that you're talking about having fun, and if we go back to a lot of the dynasties, if you look at the Canadians of the 60s and 70s, the late 70s, early 80s dynasty of the Islanders, go even in the Oilers, the boys on the bus, and you can go even during the times, I'll go into other teams, but they talk about when the fun is in the game.
Yeah.
That's when you play the best, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, I know the games when I'm feeling good and having fun are the games when like the time just ticks down and all of a sudden your team has a win versus the games where you're like in your own head and you're like, oh God, I don't want them to shoot. And I think every goalie goes through it where you're like, shit, like I'm not feeling it today. Like I hope to God they don't shoot this puck because it's going to go in the net because I can't stop a beach ball. And it happens. I mean, it is what it is, and it's a game, and unfortunately sometimes you just suck at it. But it's when the time ticks down and it flies by, that's when you're having fun.
So before my colleague jumps in, I know he's going to have a question here in a sec. I want to run with that thought just for a moment. This is so when you're talking about where sometimes you just can't stop a beach ball, and I just want to liken a lot of people. I know a lot out there. You guys, you watch in your hockey, you watch your NHL, AHL, KHL, whatever you're watching, and you're always I know they look at a goaltender and they'll just say, "Man, this person is outstanding," just great. And then another time they're like, "They can't stop," like you said, a beach ball. Can you talk to us about the psyche of a goaltender, like going from where you can't stop anything to where it's just like nothing can get by you?
Yeah, I mean, I think like it's honestly such a mental position. Like when you compare it to being a player, as a player, you can kind of fly under the radar sometimes if you're in a slump and you can positionally do the right things to still not be a liability to your team. Maybe not necessarily like a standout, but you can definitely get by. But as a goalie, if you're in a slump, you're in a slump, and everyone knows it and everyone talks about it. So I think that, like, especially NHL goalies that are in the spotlight so much, I feel like that just like plays into their minds. Like I'm sure if I was in the NHL, I feel like I would search my own name on Twitter and be like, wow, I'm getting roasted right now. You know, like gosh, like how do you not search yourself at that point and just be like, holy, I'm really in a slump because all these people are talking about it. But maybe that's the perk of being a female athlete is you search yourself on Twitter and it says no results. So that's always nice.
You've got at least a Wikipedia page, which is very impressive. We don't even have that, so you know you
Oh,
have
there you go.
elevated status
That's
when
good.
you have a Wikipedia page. I always consider it that, and then maybe the next thing is like an action figure of yourself, or like a little thing. Which
okay.
my colleagues got me one. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, there you go. Maybe I'll have to reach out to Tim Hortons and see if they can make me an action figure of myself.
Exactly, like with the pads and stuff.
Okay,
Yeah.
so if anyone's catching this, Kassidy Sauve would like to work on a little action figure. So if someone's out there, you can sponsor this. She's totally up for that. As well as we just want to put a plug, guys. Like, share, subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on the ASAP network. But we also, you can actually get, let's quickly go to a little bit of information. Where can they follow you on Twitter? And as well as not just Twitter, if you have any other social media. And on top of it, how could we watch your games? Then we're going to ask some questions about where you're playing hockey.
Okay. So on Twitter, my handle is at @ksauve32. On Instagram, it's at Kassidy Sauve. And that's pretty much all the social media platforms I have. I have TikTok, but I don't really use it. So,
didn't you do a dance on TikTok with some?
Yeah,
I saw it.
We're trying to get famous out here in Finland, but it hasn't quite stuck yet. So, I mean, if the people listening to this want to help us get famous, that'd be pretty cool. And then our games are online. I can send you guys the link because I honestly don't know how to say the word for what it is, because it is in Finnish and I only know like 15 words in Finnish so far. So I'll send you guys the link and yeah.
Well, no, that's fair enough. I mean, I'm going to age myself, but the only TikTok I know is the song by Kesha. So, you know, you guys are way ahead of me.
Yeah.
No, I know what TikTok is. I think they have some fun, silly videos. I just like to age myself where I'm just past that age where I don't have time to make TikToks. But so you've talked a little bit about like the style of play, but now you've played internationally and locally here in Canada. How would you compare not only the ice, but kind of the game when you're playing in Finland or you've played in Ohio, as well as even when you were playing in Canada? Like, is there a difference in ice style and in terms of the dynamics of what you see?
Yeah. So starting with, I guess, college, because that was kind of the first one. I feel like college hockey is very finesse. Obviously very structured because you're practicing every day together. You're playing on weekends every weekend. So you have that structure, and it's honestly really nice to go through that and experience that where it's just all hockey. And I love that. Obviously graduated from college at a weird time with the CWHL folding, and kind of jumping into the PW, the PWHPA. So, that was a bit tough. Like, obviously a super cool experience. I mean, playing with some of the best players and against some of the best players in the world. But definitely tough at times with the lack of games, I would say, just because I feel like as a goalie, it's hard. You know, a player, I feel like you can get by with playing 5 or 6 weekends a year, but as a goalie, you're cutting that volume in half just because there's usually 2 goalies rostered. And so that was a bit tough, just the lack of games. But I mean, it was obviously super cool to go to different places in Canada and the US and play games against really talented female hockey players. And then coming here, I found has been very similar to college in the sense that we do have a very structured schedule. We have games every weekend. It's definitely like a lot more like college in that sense. Style of hockey wise, I would say the PWHPA extremely skilled, lots of talent, lots of nice goals being scored. And then here, I think it's a lot different, just in the sense that they carry the puck a lot longer, I find. So I've had to get used to that a little bit, just because they'll look for really good plays. So sometimes you're not getting a shot when you're expecting it, and then other times you're getting a shot from the corner. So that's been a bit of an adjustment, but I actually really enjoy the style of play here. So.
So that's interesting when you say that, like they'll hold on to the puck longer. You hear a lot about that on the larger ice surfaces, right? Between North America and Europe. And so that's interesting because, for example, when someone comes over from Europe, they'll say they have to customize, acclimatize like to the smaller rinks. Is it because the shots come quicker and
Yeah,
there's just less time to think out there?
yeah, for sure. I think like we've kind of played on a mix of ice surfaces here. I think we've played on like one Olympic size and then some like pretty standard size rinks as well. But I do think that it honestly depends on what size ice surface you're on, whether you get a game where girls are carrying the puck and they'll come all the way in and carry it behind the net, or if they'll come in and rip a shot right away. So, and also like the skill of the other team too, for sure. Higher skilled teams will shoot more, and less skilled teams will, for whatever reason, look for the perfect play. So.
Okay, question on the two ice surfaces. What was it like getting used to the corner shots there, those angle shots, when you're on that larger? I'm just speaking from rec league. We played in one league in Edmonton, Alberta, and I had no idea. I didn't pay attention. Went straight out, did the warm up. No one's shooting from the outsides, and then they start coming down, and that's where they're shooting. And I'm like, what the heck? Where's my net? What was
Yeah.
that like adjusting? Especially on a pro level. I mean, I'm just playing rec.
Yeah, I do think it definitely makes a difference, and I think I was lucky to have like quite a few practices and a couple exhibition games in before we got back into league play. But it's definitely different. Like the first two goals I had scored against me were on the penalty kill, and they were shots from like the outside with traffic. So I was like, oh, like that's not typical for me, but it's because there's so much more room on that outside for them to pick that lane and shoot. So I thought that was a bit interesting. And just another thing is they're very physical in front of the net, and the ref won't call goalie interference. So you have to really just like pretty much ignore the girl or kind of step up and like not get knocked on your ass. So yeah.
Yeah, that's where you have to bring out the better Kassidy Hextall in you.
Yeah. Yeah. Haven't done that
Yeah.
yet here. We'll see.
Oh, you got to get in a fight. Goalie fights are like,
You know
cream of the
what?
crop.
I almost did the other day. My roommate got absolutely crunched, like absolutely crunched into the boards, and I actually thought like she has a fishbowl, and I saw her face like go into the boards, and I could see the whole thing. It was really scary, but I actually almost attacked the girl because I was so mad. But there was about 6 minutes left in the game, and I was like, all right, like not fair to my goalie partner to have to go in if I get kicked out of this game, so I will keep composed here for a hot sec. But I almost attacked her.
Yeah, you have to say though, when you got those big trappers, especially the size they are today, as opposed
Yeah,
to the '80s,
you just wanna.
yeah. Well, it's just like you can slap them silly, or you can literally cover their whole face because they can't see you, and then you can wail on them with your blocker.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've had my fair share of penalties, so but none here so far, so that's good.
Oh,
So
you're,
how? Yeah, I was
go
gonna
ahead.
I was gonna quickly ask you. Sorry, Pavel. I was gonna ask you, how did you make the decision to go? Like, how did this come about to get over to Finland?
So Nora Ratu reached out to me on Instagram. I don't know if people know who she is, but she's probably one of the best female goaltenders in the world. So she messaged me on Instagram and said, "Hey, listen, like I got offered to go play for KRS in China for the remainder of the season, and I need a goalie to replace me and kind of help lead this team to playoffs, and you're the first person I thought of," which I thought was really cool. I had played with her in one PW showcase prior, so I knew her from that, and her husband was one of my goalie coaches when I was at Ohio State, so there was a little bit of like a connection in the past, but yeah, so she reached out, and I was like, I need time to think about this. Just obviously a big decision during COVID, and then I was talking to my mom and dad about it, and they were like, how could you not? You're going to play more games you're going to have a lot of opportunity to grow your game. And this is what's been missing for you the last couple of years, to just find that love for hockey again. Because I was having a pretty hard time with just hockey in general and being like, there's just not enough for me to love it right now. But literally since I've been here, I haven't been happier. So yeah.
That's amazing to hear. Although, you know, your finish is probably better than ours, even though you know only 15 words.
Yeah.
One of the things that you kind of alluded to is reffing and, you know, being in the game and just that mindset. And I know there's been a lot of dialogue in almost any league, and even the Olympics, you know, there was some questionable calls or calls that you think, oh, is that really like a penalty, or are they letting this go, you know, similar to NHL playoffs, you know? How do you find reffing within the game? Are you having conversations with the refs? I mean, you've got a few penalty minutes in the other leagues, so clearly you don't get along.
You know what? The reffing here, I will say, has been like absolutely unbelievable. They let the girls play, which I really like. Like, I like that they allow for a little bit more of a physical game. I think it makes it a little bit more fun for everyone when you know you're not going to get sent to the box every time you throw a bump or a little bit of body contact. I've thrown a blocker once and didn't get a penalty for it, which I do think if I was in Canada, I for sure would have. So like, that's nice too, just to not take a penalty and potentially cause a goal against myself. But yeah, you know what? They're good. Some of them speak English, some of them don't. But I do know like a few basic things. So if I do have something to say, I can also just ask a teammate. Some of my teammates are really good in English, so it kind of works out. You know, you don't even notice the language barrier at the end of the day. It's kind of nice. So.
Well, you could always just be a chirper, but chirp in English, and then if they talk back to you, you're like, I don't know what you're saying. So
you know what? The girl that laid out my teammate, I said, "What the F are you doing?" And she probably had no idea what I was saying, but I was so upset that I was like yelling at her, and I'm like, she doesn't speak English. So.
Hey, speaking of refs, so growing up, you know, you're watching your teams. What doesn't matter whether it's family or friends, or it could be Pee Wee, AAA, Junior, AHL, NHL. So you're watching and you see refs, right? And we always, you know, everyone always feels like their team is always never getting the calls, and the other team, you know how that goes. And we've had some linesmen on that work in officiating in the WHL, for example, and we've asked them these questions. But from a player perspective, because you've played in quite a few different types of leagues across many different places, now across continents, and I'm just kind of interested on your take. So you know how you are out there and you kind of you see a play where it feels like it's one-sided, and then it seems like there's always a makeup penalty when they forget to call a penalty or something opposite, so they can allow. That's what it feels like to the common fan. What's it like as an actual player? And I mean, you talk with your teammates after games, you talk about officiating sometimes, I'm sure.
Yeah, I do. I definitely do think as teammates we notice makeup calls or bad calls and stuff, and I think it's honestly been a little bit less prominent here just because there are way less penalties called. But at home, you definitely notice like when there's a bad call and like the ref knows it after the fact because everyone in the stands is yelling at them and the coaches are yelling their heads off. And but yeah, I do think there are makeup calls, and that's unfortunate. I mean, it can be beneficial or it can be unfortunate, obviously, but I do like when games just flow smoothly and there's not a whole lot of interference from the refs. I mean, they're more so, I think, there to obviously have everyone play by the rules and play safe, but I do like when they let a little bit of stuff go. It makes the game more fun for sure. So.
Now I'm curious, if you're playing in a game and there's a penalty and you guys are on the penalty kill, do you find that it's easier that you see shots coming, or do you prefer that your teammates block the shots, or like, kind of direct the guide so you see it or not? Or is...
I think my big thing, and I've communicated this a lot with my defense here, is if you're 100% confident that you're gonna get your body in front of it and block it, then like by all means take it. But if you're not confident that it's gonna be that you're going to get a full block on it, or if you're just more so screening me and making it more of an issue, then try and get out of the way, or at least tie up in front so that if it does get through, the other team's not getting their stick on it right away. So.
And have you ever gone for the goal as a goalie?
I have. I haven't been successful in professional hockey or college hockey, but this past summer I was playing in a beer league in Toronto with some of my friends, and I scored a goal, but there was a goalie in the net. So that was pretty cool.
Oh,
yeah.
impressive.
So, yeah, it was pretty cool. I was shocked. I literally couldn't breathe after. I was so excited. But yeah, it was in beer league, so I guess it's cool, but
no one videotaped it though? You couldn't find a fan that videotaped it?
No one videotaped it, but the guy that I scored on messaged me on Twitter, so that was nice of him.
Well, you know, I think on our show, maybe we're going to advertise you as the first that is actually, that we know at least of anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so let's continue about the goaltending piece. Here's a piece that we've actually had conversation around shows. One of our other guests, he also does a political podcast out there, Aaron Singleton. And so he's played in the rec leagues. And so we always talk about this goaltending coaching. Now, have you actually had goaltending coaches yourself too?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So what do you, maybe you can explain to people what the goaltending coach's job is for us, so just so we can get an understanding, and then we can talk a little bit more around that.
Yeah, for sure. I think obviously depends on the age of the goalies that the goaltending coach is working with. I think at a younger age, you're just helping them build the foundations, kind of get the base of what it is to be a goalie. And then as they come up through the grapevine and get a little bit more skilled and have a certain style, it's more so just honing in on what they're good at and using those tools as assets, and then taking things that they're not so good at and finding ways to tweak it so that it can not be a weakness to a goalie. I work with younger goalies, so it's more so just like teaching the fundamentals, and then I do work with some goalies that are like grade 11, 12-ish, so that's like a lot, I think, a lot more enjoyable, because you're working with a goalie that already has a style and you're not necessarily tweaking too much. But yeah, so I think that's kind of the summary, I would say, of being a goalie coach. It's sometimes a little less hands-on, you know?
Okay, so now let's, because a lot of our conversations, those out there that they like to blame, or should we fire, when we're dealing with coaches like in the NHL. So a team is struggling, they'll say, and so our Oilers fans in the Edmonton area are going to love this one. So there's a lot of talk about their goaltending coach. How often should it be changed? Goaltenders have left. They haven't done well. They got better. And could it be goaltending coaches? Now, there have been guys like Jason Strudwick, who is a defenseman. He'll come on and say, listen, it's not the goaltending coach, it's this. Other people say it is. What's your take on is a big responsibility on the goaltending coach? And this is why I ask this. Some places, like there's Benoit Allaire, he's huge. He's done a lot over with the Rangers, but people talked about Sean Burke as the goaltending whisperer, right? Not that he had a fabulous career himself above and beyond, but his coaching. So how important is it on the professional level, do you feel, goaltending coaching, and how much of an impact does it really make?
I mean, I do genuinely think that the relationship between a goalie coach and a goalie is extremely important, and I do think that depending on who the goalie coach is, may not be the right style for the goalie. So I do think it's very situational. I mean, I've had goalie coaches that I've agreed with everything they've said, and then I've had goalie coaches where we can't quite seem eye to eye just because we're very different styles, and they're set in their ways and I'm set in mine. So
just on a delay here.
Change the way they play. You're probably not going to like any goalie coach that comes in.
Yeah.
But if you're open, I think the goalie has to be open and willing to change, or willing to make adjustments. So.
Okay, so now I want to go back. So this is just a new take, and I saved this take from our other show there, Pavel. So this was something I was just interested, going back to Edmonton again, because that was where it's been a lot of talk about them going to playoffs. They got their superstars. They've been worried about their goaltending. They've had a season of three different things. They start really hot, lots of goal
Roller
scoring.
coaster.
Yeah, and then they can't win nothing. Their goaltenders are coming into save percentages of 880, 890. Early on, someone like Nico Koskinen was riding like a 930 or 920, 930. Now he's back up there again in this last time around. And so this is my piece. How important is it? I believe it's important. But now it's got me thinking, Kassidy, because we like to blame the goaltending coach if the goaltenders are struggling. So should we not also give them credit if the last 10 games the goaltender is playing 930, 940 save percentage again?
Yeah, I definitely think that I think as fans, like we, I guess I'll lump myself with fans, but we like to blame the goalie coach or the coach when things aren't going well, but then when things do go well, it's like a we thing, like, oh, we're doing so good, so I think it's like a me to we type thing, but I do think that the goalie coach does deserve some credit when the team is having success and the goaltender is having success, and I think not often enough is the case. It's definitely not an easy job, especially with like you're dealing with two or three goalies and you have to deal with different styles and stuff too. Whereas players, like chances are, if you're working with a certain position, they all do, like at the end of the day, they're all trying to do the same thing as a player. So
Excellent, excellent. So, we do have quite a few NHL followers, and or in general, a lot of people that tune in. I'm wondering if you have a team that you root for in the NHL or maybe the AHL that you're hoping that like that's my team and I support them. I mean, you talked about being from the Montreal area, or is the family a Habs thing, or is it there's other colors that you guys represent?
So my family now lives in Toronto, but even when we were living in Montreal, I was a Leafs fan. I grew up loving Ed Belfour, so for me it was easy to love the Leafs. And my parents, I think, liked Montreal, and I think also like Philadelphia. But I guess I've always been loyal to the Leafs. So
Fair. So being a pro goalie and being a future goaltender coach and being one of the best, what advice would you give to Jack Campbell and Peter Mrazek right now? Because they've been kind of struggling since January 1st with their numbers, and they're still solid goaltenders. I mean, you look at what Freddie Anderson has been able to do in Carolina with the defense, and I know defense is a little bit of a hot topic in Toronto. But what are your thoughts on their game, and what would you advise them?
well, just going based off of my own handbook here, I would say just have fun with it. Like, don't search yourself on Twitter. It's probably not going to be great. It happens to the best of us, but just have fun with it and make it a game again. I think that's when it's the easiest to play as a goalie, is when you have fun with it. And I mean, you look at what Jack Campbell's done in the past. He's a stud. Like, he's just kind of got to get back on that track of having fun with it and almost being like, in a sense, it's like he was giddy, like he was excited out there and just enjoy the moment. And I think just getting back to that was huge. So
that's exactly what we were talking about, right, Pavel? We were talking about the fact on how good he started the season. Some people didn't believe he would be there, and then but again, it really comes back to, we saw that in Edmonton. Yeah, you always got to wonder just the wear and tear of the season, and then the stress that you put on yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so let's continue kind of with that. I'm kind of curious on your thoughts here. So there was a big deal struck here for professional hockey for women, where there was a $25 million investment. How do you think that's going to impact the Premier Hockey Federation?
Yeah, I think that's great. Obviously, being with the PWHPA, there's a lot of great stuff going on with that as well. But I think either the PA or the PHF are great options. I do think that there's a lot of potential in the future with the PHF and just with the investors they're bringing in. And I do think they're doing a really diligent job of kind of changing what the perception used to be, and giving women an opportunity to play hockey and make money doing so. So I'm really excited to see what happens next year, you know?
I know, and one of the things that we're just suggesting, and I mean, there's always talk about NBA comparisons. You know, we've actually suggested several followers, and I personally think there would be support if NHL teams would sponsor their own women's NHL. So we could, you know, I would prefer to call it the WNHL, the Women's National Hockey League, so that they could set up their own profession. And because some of the startup costs to get going, even if you could have a 10-team WNHL to start, and it could work with some of the current leagues or something, I think just the name, the notoriety, and especially in markets where they're already filling stadiums.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that would be, I do think that that is in the plans for the future. Whether that's with the PHF or the PWHPA, I definitely think are on track to kind of lead towards that. And I do think the NHL, especially individual teams, definitely have interest in that. So
have you heard just in circles? Is that a bigger conversation than we even know?
yeah, for sure. There's definitely conversations going on, and I do think that the PWHPA is trying to model themselves after the WNBA in that sense. So I do think that just looking at that alone, you would think that there is going to be some sort of partnership eventually, hopefully in the near future, because it would be nice to be able to just play hockey and just focus on that. A lot of us have jobs and stuff, so
Yeah.
it'd be nice to just play and not have the stress of a 9 to 5.
Absolutely. Oh, and that's the nice part of the national hockey, especially in the North America. For you know, I don't know what it's like over in Finland for women's hockey, but you know, the national game for the USA and Canada, it's really, in fact, I wonder if this is like a blessing in disguise, this last Olympics, because it really gave the spotlight to the women's hockey.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, no offense to, you know, the guys hockey, but we were joking on the show. It just like I said to my co-host here, I said, you know, when do the men play? I don't even know.
Yeah, I honestly couldn't even tell you like when they lost. I didn't pay attention to the men's side at all, which is not a bad thing for the women's game for sure. I mean, it was like a record-breaking year for women's hockey at the Olympics, so I do think that that's great, and I think it shows testament to where it's headed, and that there's people that want to watch female hockey players play. So
Absolutely.
100%.
Well, we can't get away without talking a little NHL then around a couple of the questions. So we need to get your take. What are the teams? How do you see things lining up these playoffs?
oh boy, I think I'm Leafs all the way, and I'm hoping this year that they actually prove me right, because I've been waiting for a long time for them to do that. But I'm just Leafs all the way. Obviously, it'd be cool to see something happen with Seattle, I think, just because obviously new team, and when Vegas came in, they came in hot their first year. Pretty cool. But yeah, I kind of just pay attention to only the Leafs, and haven't watched too much hockey since I've been out here just because of the time change. But yeah, I'll be curious to see what happens and hopefully be able to catch some games.
Is there a player on the Leafs that you find electric or dynamite, or you enjoy watching every time they touch the ice?
Well, you know what? I'm pretty biased, so I work out with Marner in the summer. So I feel like I have to say Marner. Like, he's a great guy. I see how much work he puts in, and I think Toronto people give him a lot of shit for no reason. So I would like to see him do quite well and just have a lot of success, just because I know him beyond the ice surface, and I see the time he puts in at the gym, and on top of that, he's an unbelievable hockey player. So
Yeah, he's an elite playmaker. He knows how to, he could have almost like 60, 70, 80 assists each season, just the way he plays and in all positions, and he's smart. And regardless of his size, he gets into those grindy areas and in the corners. So electric player to watch.
I when I watch Marner play, it's actually interesting. You were just saying that and you are right. He's known as the playmaker because of what he can do, but man, his shot is underestimated though. And and obviously if you played with him and you work out together and exercise, you see that. And one of the things that I always wonder is, how the brain, it goes into habit, and it's your natural habit is just to be the playmaker instead of the goal scorer, unless you play with another playmaker more.
Yeah, for sure. Well, he definitely put in, we got to see it, which is pretty cool, but all the time he put in last summer working on his shot too. And I don't think it really needed much work. But he did spend time working on it. And I do think that has allowed him to use it a little bit more, which is cool to see that translation over onto the ice. But I think when you just have such a high hockey IQ like that, your natural tendency is to go to playmaker mode. So when we're on the ice with him in the summer, you just see his wheels turning and he's coming up with the most absurd plays in his head. So it's pretty cool to see.
I do want to let everyone know, so we do cover trades and rumors and stuff that's going out there. There is a lot of speculation around acquiring people for the Maple Leafs because we're talking on this right now. It's interesting because there's not a lot of defenseman names, which is a need that they need going in, and they're talking forwards. And for some reason, JT Miller keeps being mentioned, but the cost is astronomical. I'm going to tell everyone, keep your eyes open for is it Garland? Connor Garland?
Connor Garland.
Yeah. That's who I wonder if the Leafs would consider more, because he's got a new contract. It's reasonable within what he can do. And could Garland fill some of that role that they lost in Zach Hyman?
Possibly, but I think one of the best deals that they got in the offseason, Dubas signed some low-key contracts, is Michael Bunting. And I think he's been an electric player, and he could potentially be nominated for the Calder, even though he's, I think, 24. He's had a great season, and he signed for one more year at $925K. So what a steal of a deal. I think it was only the Nick Ritchie signing that was the best, which of course now it's been traded to Arizona. So yeah.
Woo! Well, hey, one question before we do our final thoughts here, Kassidy. So my question just kind of relies just for the fans out there, people who want to follow you and stuff. What's the future looking like? How long are you in? Is it just a 1 year right now for this season? What's the plans moving down the road here that you're able to share?
Yeah, so we start playoffs last weekend of March, and then depending on how things go with that, could be here kind of through mid-April, hopefully towards the later part of mid-April to end of April, because that means we're doing well. So I'll be here till then, and then I'm gonna head back home. I'm probably gonna, hopefully everything's okay, but I'm gonna explore a little bit around Europe and just see some places, and then head home for the summer. I'll get back to training in Toronto, and then I'm not really sure what my plan is for next year yet. I'm open to everything. Hopefully there's a league that we can play in next year so that I can play at home. Yeah. It would be nice to play in front of family again. It's been a while. But yeah, so I'm definitely open to coming back out to Europe next year if that's one of my better options. But if there's something local, then great.
Amazing. That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for being on the show and for being such a incredible athlete and ambassador for the game. I know you've probably inspired a lot of young girls who probably now want to get onto the ice and shoot or save goals against their brothers, or sisters.
Yeah.
And hold that on to take the gold. And that's all from my end. Evan, anything else?
I would like to thank you, Kassidy, for being on my show today. I'm about ready to go on LTIR from carrying the load on this show for my co-host. So I appreciate it. It gives my back a little bit of relief.
Yeah.
But no, thank you so much for any last thoughts you'd like to throw out there to anybody that's following?
No, I mean, thank you guys so much for having me. This has been great. Lots of laughs, and I like talking hockey, so that was great.
All right, Pavel, any last thoughts before we wrap up, bud?
No, just that you know nothing about hockey, and Kassidy, no offense, but beards are way better than no beards. So, just saying.
I can't grow one of those, so.
Well, just so you know, we always say on this show that if you're growing a beard, it's because you're hiding something. All right. Well, everyone, thanks to Kassidy Sauve. You can follow her on social media. Just checking the postings in the comments section. You can follow her Twitter and Instagram. You can also follow my colleague on Instagram at Color Avenue. And then once you do that, just know he is known as the Cat because that's all he does is post about his cats. So follow him and then unfollow him. And you can follow me on Twitter at revingev. So on behalf of Two Guys in Hockey Talk, in the meantime and in between time.
Keep your sticks on the ice, everyone. Stay safe. Have a great day.